Hello, my friends. It's so nice to have you with us again. We're coming from the Berkeley Springs, from the Arlington Institute in West Virginia, and we're here with an interview today with Debra Rose. Debra is our friend who's been with us at Transition Talks before, and she's kind of come, and she's going to be with us on the 17th of March, and we're looking forward. Hi,
Hi,
Debra.
John. How
How
you
in the
doing?
world are you?
I'm really well. How are you?
Oh, well, I'm good, thank you. A lot have happened since you were here last time, and there's a lot of interesting things that we can talk about. What's on your mind? What have you been thinking about?
I've been thinking about all the craziness that's going on with health these days.
Well, you need to set this up a little bit, and for those of our viewers who are not familiar with who you are, maybe you give them just a little bit of background first.
Okay. Okay. I am a board certified naturopath and holistic health practitioner. I have been doing this for 19 years. I'm pretty much the person you would see when it's a puzzle. We're not quite sure what's wrong with you. And I deal with the stresses that are affecting or causing dis-ease within the body in a very natural and holistic way. I also teach people how to be in peak metabolic performance as well as equaling peak health, and to teach you how to have a lifestyle that helps you to avoid age-related issues and to regenerate the body's natural activity.
That's pretty
There's
good.
always something you can do to improve your situation.
Yeah, well, that sounds, I'm for all of that. That sounds like a good idea. And you've been helpful to me and some of my friends, and I really appreciate that. Uh, tell us a little bit about your general approach and about how you do that kind of stuff and what makes you different from other folks.
I believe in what makes me different is that I really provide a very unique approach for each individual. Nobody's body works like anybody else. Whether you're an identical twin or not, your body does not respond the same way somebody else does. Therefore, in my experience, a blanket response isn't an answer. So, for example, if someone has chronic thyroid issues or Hashimoto's, three different people need three different types of support, right? No one responds the same way. You have the same goals into restoring health, but you have to address them differently with each person.
How do you find out that they're all different in those ways? Is this the conventional kind of stuff like blood tests and things, or what?
So yes and no. Blood never lies, and blood is always good for a baseline. I do a lot of biofeedback, which is an electronic test. It tests 11,500 signatures against your body and how you respond. Everything from emotional issues to bacteria to disease to virus. We can see where you are and how you're responding to them, what your reactivity is, or your resonance, how you resonate with certain items. Specifically, you in particular, not an overall answer.
Well, that starts to kind of narrow it down. And I mean, for instance, something like Lyme disease, which a lot of people have a hard time kind of dealing with. How do you approach that?
So Lyme disease has very specific signatures. What's interesting is there are 6 different strains of Lyme disease. Not all are necessarily from a tick-borne issue. And that's something that we'd want to have an extensive conversation about. But with Lyme disease, you're looking at restoring all of your functions. Typically with Lyme, you see people who, number one, aren't eliminating. They don't sleep. They have random joint pains. So while we all may be diagnosed with this, the way that we respond, I might be able to do digestion first or lessen inflammation first. It depends on how your body's responding. Ultimately, the goal is to restore all functions and to get the brain and the stomach speaking again. Once communication is restored and proper nutrients are absorbed, the body tends to respond in kind. And blood will measure the effect of this. What I would really recommend with people who have unusual issues where we can't get an answer is to get a CD57 blood test. It will make both Eastern and Western medicine take a look at what's going on with you because it measures your immune response, and blood doesn't lie. So while your regular numbers might be at just above or below normal, nothing very specific, the CD57 will get people looking.
Hmm.
And I
That,
believe people. When someone says, I know something's wrong, I believe you.
mhm.
And I
That's,
think we need to, because no one knows their body any more than the person who's in it.
yeah, I've certainly been to doctors where I told them what I thought was the problem, and they said, "Of course not," and it was interesting to me because he wasn't me, and he wasn't in my body, and he hadn't been where I'd been, and so it was kind of, there's an arrogance about the system sometimes. You talk about Eastern and Western medicine. How do you work both sides of that kind of?
I work both sides of that coin. I use Western medicine typically to get traditional medicine to get baselines. And I believe there's always a time and place for both to meet. I mean, there are times we need surgery. There are times that we need immediate pain relief, which we can't do that quickly in alternative medicine. We do need interventions at times. There's a time and place for everything. But can the body restore itself? Absolutely. But it depends on you. We all have to take some responsibility in our health and make the changes necessary to get out of where we are. If you plan on going back and doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome, that's the definition of insanity.
Right.
Right?
Sure. Well, I mean, as we go forward into all this amazing change that's coming downstream, that's going to kind of fundamentally upend just about every aspect of life, then we really need to be, I would suggest, kind of leaning forward and pushing into this new space, because it is by definition going to become something new than it's been. And the sooner we figure that out, and the sooner we figure out that there are new and more effective and, probably seemingly strange ways in which to deal with some of these kinds of problems and issues, the sooner that we're able to kind of, deal with the kind of the change in the process of moving into this new space.
Also, costs of prescriptions and availability, and the way that we're using different drugs for different things. There are so many options that you can have on hand as a traditional alternative medicine cabinet, if you will, that would be highly effective for all of us, something that we could all have on hand and that would also be cost effective and zero side effect.
Oh, I hope you'll talk about that when you come here on the 17th of March. Is maybe kind of an emergency or a go kit, for what are the basic things that everyone should have if the supply chains break down and don't work?
That's my plan, is the bonus part, I want to give everybody the option. I'm going to make a list and hand it out to everyone of options of basically having your medicine cabinet being an alternative or healthy choice. That if it's up to you, you like it, I love it, but I can definitely give you suggestions on what you want to have on hand all the time.
That's great. So Deborah, here at the Arlington Institute, we're a future shop. We're looking out on where the world's going and where humanity's going and things. What do you think is the kind of the future of healthcare?
I really think the future of healthcare lies within each of us to start taking action and responsibility and prevention and aiding and keeping ourselves as healthy as possible. There are too many variables going on in society at this point, with the changes and fallout from current treatments that people are experiencing on a daily basis. Many ways that we can avoid them. Prevention is the best option. However, there are so many answers for long-term COVID-related issues that will not destroy other parts of your body. For long-term issues that you may have, which will actually support you and get you feeling better and not just surviving. I don't believe in surviving. I believe either you're a victim or a victor, and it's your choice. You get to choose it. But getting to know your options, my goal is to to be informative so that you can make an informed decision, know your options in all ways, or the best way that you can support yourself in any situation that you may have coming up, as well as aging. There are so many things that we don't need to do anymore. Dementia should not
Tell
ever
me
be a
about
risk
that.
anymore.
Tell me about that.
If we take care of our bodies in an overall general way, then we're less likely to have age-related issues. If you're eating and well and absorbing nutrients, you're not going to lose muscle. If you're getting the proper fats, your brain isn't going to shrink and have dementia or early Alzheimer's stages. This is science. It won't shrink. We will have what we need. But absorbability of nutrients is key. And very few of us have proper digestive systems. The beauty of it is we can restore it at any time. We can retrain the gut to absorb and eliminate nutrients that it needs. If you're getting the proper fats, we know through over 50 years of science that high doses of coconut oil can actually reverse the effects of some Alzheimer's types of diseases.
Wow.
So looking at various studies, and I don't mean for a few years, I mean decades, that we know of things we can reverse. The same with lung issues. Using amino NAC, UCLA did a 37-year study that's still ongoing that shows that taking amino NAC can actually reverse COPD and reverse the effects of emphysema on the lungs. It's a very easy amino acid to acquire. During COVID, it was very difficult to get because people are starting to become aware and do their own research. And you've got to become your own health advocate.
Well,
Ask questions.
What's the best way to do that? I mean, obviously the internet opens up lots of options that didn't exist at least when I was younger, obviously. And but what's give us some good sources and where do you look for information to stay current and new ideas and things like that.
So I like to look at different publishings through the NIH, the National Institute of Health. They show a lot of options for us that come with years of study, reversing medullary thyroid cancer naturally, very different cancers naturally that surgeons and doctors from all over the world has published. Also talk to people that you know, and whenever you do anything, whether it's seeing me or anyone else, actually speak to people who have been through this and seen their experience. There are too many people in any field, in my field, in every field, that are snake oiled, and they prey on people who have no answer. There's no answer for certain things, and people will prey upon you. Do your due diligence. It's hard in a desperate situation.
What's a good way to do that, though? I mean, you say go to the NIH. That's God. I mean,
I don't like them for everything. Let me be clear.
No, and I don't mean it that way. I mean digging through these medical journals and papers and things that is not a good time as far as
it's not fun at all. But if I have a disease that I don't have an answer for, I'm seeking answers everywhere. What scares me with the internet and WebMD is that I can look at prostate cancer right now and I have 9 of the 10 symptoms. The thing I'm missing is a prostate. So we can automatically be going, oh my God, I have an embolism or I have this based on symptomology. And we don't want to look at symptomology. We want to look at causal. How did this happen?
Right.
Why is this happening? If we can find out the why, we can always find a remedy.
That's a really important point, I think. And rather than just treating the symptoms and the byproducts, so you get on the other side of the equation on the front end of the whole thing and start saying what causes this and what makes it happen. Because I'm here to tell you, my wife just went through some cancer and they have no idea what's causing this stuff. And it's all about symptoms and it's very expensive.
I feel that our system's failing us in that way, because if we truly don't understand the why and we're just giving something for here, this is for this symptom, we don't know what other symptoms are going to come from it. And then you find you have another side effect and something new pops up. Whereas if we can go to the source of why the system is failing, we can stop it from failing and keep it from reoccurring.
So where do you find that stuff out? It probably is not so much at the NIH. Are there other
No,
websites and things?
so I am an avid studier and nerd, and I ask people and I look at products I've heard of and look at the studies, and I literally talk to their um people or their faces of their company, people who've had these experiences. I'm not a person to take anything at face value, and I
Yeah.
don't think anyone else should either. We put more energy into buying a car than we do in our healthcare.
Oh yeah, study all of this stuff. Yeah.
So whatever it is that you're choosing, whether you're searching online or looking in your local community for alternatives, talk to people who have been through them. Find people who have had your simpler, if they say they can do this and they've seen this 1,000 times, let me talk to 10 of your people. Let's talk to these people and find out exactly what their experience was like. Now I work only by referral. People who see me have seen someone else who's seen me. But when I started, I gave at least 4 people for people to talk to about me as a person or me as a health advocate. And I think everyone should. If you're making any decision, look at it as if you're putting a tattoo on your face. If I was going to put something on my face, I'm really going to look into what it is before I do it. The same as with plastic surgery. You're really going to look at something before you do it because it's a life change. And medications can be the same way. Certain medications can cause life-changing events. We have to actually look at our warnings. If your medication comes with a warning, read it. We have to take responsibility with what we're putting in and read the contraindications or what we might be looking at so that we don't have to have a failure before we do something about it.
Yeah, well, you're being really nice because what you're essentially talking about is the fact that there's a lot of advice and there's a lot of medicines and there's a lot of other kind of things that are part of the kind of conventional healthcare system that just either don't work or are counterproductive, or I mean, what is it? Well, the third, I think it's the third largest cause of death is from medical mistakes and things in hospitals and such things. And so there is it's a very interesting and useful and important argument to say that rather than just believing everything that you're told by whoever the conventional practitioners are. I mean, that's where the whole idea of a second opinion came from, is because people figured out that the first guy might not be right in the second. And so what you're just saying is that you need to extend and expand that basic approach to saying about everything that you do. And again, with the internet, you've got a lot of things that are available. I know that you suggesting that there's
blessing and a curse, as I said. You can get a lot. It's a blessing and a curse, right?
Yeah.
We can get a lot of information, but we can also take it out of context and also wherever our filter is at that time. If we're in a desperate situation, we're seeking desperate answers. Really, to not make a decision out of fear. Take a second and process what you're doing. Just because you got a diagnosis 5 minutes ago doesn't mean you're a different person. And
right.
That diagnosis didn't happen in 5 minutes.
Right.
Right? So taking a moment to actually investigate for yourself is a really good choice. And we never want to make a decision based on fear. The beauty is that we're finally studying that epigenetics, the effect of emotions on the body, right? It's now truly a science, and understanding how that works. So making decisions out of fear triggers other responses with our body. And we know this through science as well as through our old medicines that we know this. But science is actually acknowledging the effect of emotions or trauma to the body and its cause and effect of disease.
You know, Dr. Bruce Lipton, who has been at Transition Talks too, that's epigenetics is his big subject, and he'll tell you that I mean, I've been with him. He says every disease you have comes from your brain, from your mind.
Exactly.
And You won't find that at the hospital. They won't tell you that at the hospital. And but what that means is it opens up extraordinary kind of possibilities, because now if you realize that you've got the way you think and the way you feel and your emotions and other those kinds of things are in fact what is a principal contributor to the well-being of your body, that means you can control it. You can control your mind. If you can think about different things, you can whatever.
choose. You can make a choice
Yeah.
into where it goes in there. And I had a family where it has 4 sisters. All of them had the breast cancer gene. 3 of them had horrifying emotional traumas. 2 of the 3 did get breast cancer, 1 did not. The one that did not made 0 decisions out of fear and had a really strong support system. Her trauma did not cause issue with her body. So we can see it with people we know. We're all affected nowadays by somebody who's had ill effects from treatment or cancer or autism. We all know someone, we're all affected by it, and seeing how people react. When you see people who've been diagnosed with cancer and they go, oh, I don't believe for 1 second I'm going to die, I'm going to be through this, tend not to die. Those that are, oh my God, I'm dying, do. Our biggest weapon in anything we do is our brain. And the part that people really don't seem to wrap themselves around when we talk about epigenetics is they're saying, well, then basically you're saying I'm a hypochondriac. That is not what we're saying at all. 90% of all illness, according to the American Medical Association, is caused by stress. What is stress? Anything that does not feel good. So if stress is causing these medical problems, if it doesn't feel good, that would mean emotions and the way we feel are causing these issues. So it makes a whole lot more sense if you're breaking it down that way. When you go and say, well, what you're thinking, people will tend to go, well, wait a minute, unless you're really evolved in thinking, I need to be really in a high vibration, we're not going to go there. We're going to say, what do you mean I made myself sick? No, let's talk about your life. Let's talk about what's happened in your life. Again, these major issues didn't happen overnight. It took years and time for them to happen, or for you also to be a petri dish for opportunistic issues to happen. A lot had to be in play for this storm to occur and leave damage.
Yeah.
And there's a lot we can avoid and a lot we can change.
And we must change. I said it earlier, but it bears repeating, and that is that we're moving into a space for which we have no analog. We're moving into an area that is not the past. By definition, it's not the past, and it's rapidly moving into a new world that operates on a whole bunch new level. You work with some technologies that are based upon subtle energies, and there's a whole kind of spectrum of technologies that are available for healthcare that are based upon subtle energies. Well, the mainline healthcare business doesn't know anything about that, and they certainly don't have any technology that can measure those kinds of things. Some of the role of the mind that you've just talked about did not exist 15 years ago in any kind of a practical way. And now it's starting to move in. And so what you're starting to see is that there's all these other kind of modalities, these other kind of components of the human system that you can get in front of, that you can use to buttress yourself up in from an energy and from a frequency point of view. And so it's really this new human where we're going is all about not only in this space, but in all kinds of spaces, and finding a whole new way to live in those directions. And so whether it's education or whether it's energy or whatever it turns out to be, there's kind of a revolution that has to happen. And that and what you're talking about and what you'll talk about on the 17th of March when you're with us is some components and aspects of that revolution, because I promise you that healthcare is not going in 10 years is not going to be anything like it is now. It's
The
it's
beauty
going
of
to
that
be,
though is you have a lot more options.
yeah,
It's not, we only have one option anymore, that you'll have a multitude of options and they'll be more available to you. People are starting to speak out and come out more in what they do, and we're changing and our technology's changing. But what does that mean? That means we're not going to be treated the same way anymore,
right.
and
And
that you'll have a multitude of choices.
that's why we're excited, frankly, about having you with us, because you represent kind of the leading edge of thinking about some of these kinds of things. Tell us just a little bit about what you're going to talk about.
I want to talk about the most current health crisis that we're having, the fallout that we've had since COVID and what we can do about it. I also would like to talk about allergy season, since it's about to be upon us, and things you can do if you suffer from it.
Well, that's
But
good.
there's a lot of places in between of new diseases and new issues that we're having due to the circumstances in the world that I know many are affected by, that we can talk about ways that you can combat this risk
Yeah,
or this option happening to you. A multitude of options that
that's
are easily available and affordable.
yeah. Well, that's great. It's going to be fun to have you with us. And again, I hope you'll tell us about how to take and build an emergency kit, about how to deal with if the supply chains or the drugstore doesn't isn't working, or whatever the situation is.
I will have
Well,
that
it's
for everyone. And if you want to keep it on your site, you're welcome to do that too.
yeah, oh yeah, we will, of course. Well, Debra Rose, thank you so much. Nice to chat with you. As always, we're looking forward to having you here in Berkeley Springs on the 17th of March. Are we going to make a day of it, or just an afternoon? What are you going to do?
I will give you as much of me as you will take.
that's, that's the best offer I've had today. Let me tell you. All right. Well, we're going to have a good time. You can find out everything about it at arlingtoninstitute.org and transitiontalks.org. And we will very much look forward to having you with us, Debra. And thanks so much for being with us here on PostScript.
Oh, John, I would like to mention one more thing.
Sure.
I would like to give two people that are there, if they would like, they can each have sessions with me.
Well, that would be great.
So we'll have a raffle probably in the morning and the evening, if that's okay with you, or the afternoon.
Such a deal. I want one of those. Yeah.
Well, you get one of those anytime.
That's a good incentive to come. You get a raffle and you can get a free session with Debra. That's a good deal. So thank you again, and we'll see you. Thank you, Debra, and thank you all.
Thank you.